The neon lights of the Beijing studio buzzed softly as the crew began clearing away the heavy equipment, but Tian Xiwei's mind was already racing toward the next item on her grueling schedule. She traded her bright live stream dress for an oversized hoodie and comfortable sweatpants, sinking deep into the passenger seat of her waiting van as it pulled out into the midnight traffic. Staring out the rain-streaked window at the blurring city lights, she could still feel the phantom hum of hundreds of thousands of scrolling comments flashing before her eyes. It was utterly fascinating, and admittedly exhausting, how a single co-star could completely overshadow her hard work in the minds of the public within a matter of seconds. She pulled her phone from her pocket, half tempted to check Weibo just to see if her witty retort about the commission had already become a trending topic. Sure enough, before she could even unlock her screen, her phone buzzed vigorously with a notification from her overzealous public relations team sharing the latest hot searches. The hashtag featuring her name alongside Zhang Linghei's funny live stream moment was already rocketing toward the top of the trending charts, flanked by thousands of laughing emojis. She let out an amused groan, dropping her head back against the headrest while her manager chuckled softly from the front seat, scrolling through the viral posts. Her manager remarked that at this rate, the audience was going to start demanding joint interview appearances just to see if they would actually argue about who owed who a commission. Tian Xiwei sighed dramatically, muttering that she would probably need hazard pay and an extra assistant just to manage the sheer volume of shipping edits flooding the internet. Despite the mild annoyance, she knew deep down that this intense public fascination was a testament to the undeniable impact of their drama together. When they had first stepped onto the set months ago, neither of them could have predicted the absolute pop culture earthquake their on-screen chemistry would trigger among viewers. Every lingering look, every improvised banter between takes, and every cheerful behind-the-scenes snapshot had been meticulously dissected by eagle-eyed fans across multiple social platforms. While it was flattering to know their hard work resonated so deeply, it also created a bizarre professional cage where her individual identity risked being entirely swallowed by a fictional narrative. She swiped away from the trending list, locking her phone and deciding that she desperately needed a mental break from the digital noise. Arriving at her apartment complex, she hurried through the quiet lobby and let herself into her cozy, dimly lit home, greeted immediately by the comforting silence of her own space. She kicked off her sneakers, tossed her bag onto the couch, and padded over to the kitchen to fix herself a warm cup of soothing herbal tea before winding down. As the kettle whistled softly on the stove, her thoughts drifted back to Zhang Ling himself and how he managed to handle the relentless wave of public scrutiny on his end. They had exchanged a brief, polite text message earlier in the week regarding their promotional obligations, keeping things strictly professional amidst the roaring circus of fan speculation. She wondered if he had also endured endless questions about her during his own recent brand events, or if the media had focused more on his tall stature and upcoming thriller projects. Pouring the hot water into her favorite ceramic mug, she walked over to the living room window, pulling back the curtains to watch the distant glow of the metropolis below. It was a strange reality of modern celebrity culture where actors were no longer just judged by their acting chops or character portrayals, but by their perceived off-screen chemistry. She took a slow sip of the chamomile tea, letting the warmth calm her frayed nerves as she reminded herself of why she chose this unpredictable career path in the first place. She loved breathing life into fierce, independent heroines who took charge of their own destinies, which made it all the more ironic that her real-life narrative was constantly co-written by internet shippers. Resolving to channel that exact on-screen bravery into her daily life, she promised herself she would keep using her sharp humor to fiercely protect her personal boundaries. The next morning arrived with the harsh glare of an early alarm clock, dragging her out of bed for a high-profile fashion magazine shoot across town. By the time she stepped out of the makeup trailer hours later, draped in a stunning haute couture gown that commanded absolute attention, the atmosphere was completely different. The photographers and stylists on set treated her with professional reverence, focusing entirely on her striking visuals, fierce pose execution, and undeniable star power. Here, in the heart of the high-fashion world, there were no chat rooms, no scrolling super chats, and certainly no awkward inquiries about her tall co-star's whereabouts. She caught her reflection in the massive studio mirror, feeling a surge of pure empowerment as she realized that she was a powerhouse entirely on her own terms. Between shooting different layouts, her phone vibrated quietly in her assistant's keeping, signaling a text message that briefly interrupted her focused rhythm on the studio floor. Her assistant handed her the device during a quick wardrobe adjustment, whispering with a knowing smirk that Zhang Ling had apparently responded to the internet's chaos. Curious, Tian Xiwei unlocked the screen and saw a screenshot of a recent interview clip where Ling had been asked about her witty live stream commission joke. True to his playful nature, he had laughed on camera and joked that he should indeed start paying her commission for keeping his name relevant during her streams. She burst out laughing right there in the middle of the dressing room, the unexpected humor completely melting away any lingering traces of annoyance from the previous night. The shared joke between them instantly became the talk of the entertainment industry, turning what could have been an awkward boundary into an amusing, friendly public banter. Fans across social media went absolutely wild over the mutual acknowledgement, dubbing their playful interaction the ultimate proof of their comfortable off-screen friendship. Reading through some of the funnier fan edits while resting between camera setups, Tian Xiwei finally allowed herself to smile without feeling like she was conceding to the intrusive shipping culture. She realized that sometimes, instead of fighting the relentless tide of public curiosity, leaning into the absurdity with a bit of clever sarcasm was the most effective strategy of all. She handed the phone back to her assistant, squaring her shoulders as the director called her back onto the set for the final, most dramatic layout of the day. Stepping back into the blinding glare of the studio lights, she struck a fierce, unyielding pose that radiated absolute confidence, embodying the exact spirit of her independent career goals. She knew the questions about her co-stars would inevitably return the moment she turned on her next camera or walked down another red carpet premiere. But she also knew that she possessed the quick wit, the resilience, and the undeniable talent to handle whatever the internet threw her way with absolute grace and humor. The flashing cameras clicked in rapid succession, capturing every angle of her radiant smile as she proved, once and for all, that she was the absolute star of her own story. Tian Xiwei sat in the makeup chair of her dressing room, staring at her reflection while the stylist pinned back a loose strand of her hair. The bright ring lights of the upcoming live broadcast were already humming softly in the corner, casting an artificial glow over the bustling room. She let out a long, heavy sigh, resting her chin in her hand as the familiar, nagging pre-show anxiety settled into her stomach. It was not the cameras or the thousands of viewers waiting on the other side of the glass that made her shoulders tense up, it was the inevitable wave of comments she knew were coming. Every single time she promoted a project or just popped in to say hello to her fans, the chatbox inevitably dissolved into a relentless sea of shipping names and pointed inquiries about one specific co-star. She checked her phone one last time, scrolling through trending topics and fan edits that persistently paired her name with Zhang Linghai's. Their undeniable on-screen chemistry in their recent drama had captured the public imagination in a chokehold, turning every glance they shared into viral material. But what started as lighthearted appreciation from viewers had slowly transformed into an unstoppable juggernaut of fan obsession. No matter how many times she talked about her independent career goals, her love for food, or her upcoming solo projects, the comments section always found a way to drag the conversation right back to him. The director of the broadcast knocked gently on the door, giving her a cheerful thumbs up and signaling that they were going live in 30 seconds. Tian Xiwei forced a bright, practiced smile onto her face, shaking away her momentary frustration and reminding herself that enthusiastic fans ultimately meant a successful show. She stood up, smoothed down the fabric of her pastel dress, and walked over to the set, taking her seat right in front of the camera. As the red recording light blinked to life, indicating that the stream was officially live, the view counter instantly skyrocketed into the hundreds of thousands. A blinding cascade of floating hearts, virtual gifts, and rapid-fire comments flooded the screen at a speed that made it nearly impossible to read individual words. She leaned closer to the lens, waving enthusiastically at her fans and launching into her opening greeting with her trademark bubbly energy and bright laughter. For the first few minutes, things went smoothly as she chatted about the delicious milk tea she had enjoyed earlier that afternoon and answered casual questions about her weekend plans. She joked around with the scrolling text, playfully teasing a few overly dramatic fans and keeping the atmosphere light, breezy, and entirely centered on her own world. However, as the viewer count continued to climb, the collective mindset of the chatroom began to shift toward a single, unified agenda. Like a magnetic pull, the comments slowly mutated away from milk tea and weekend plans, morphing into an overwhelming flood of questions asking about her current relationship with Zhang Ling. Names of their fictional characters began to dominate the screen, followed closely by direct demands for behind-the-scenes secrets and updates on whether they were hanging out. Tian Xiwei caught sight of a particularly bold comment flashing by, asking if she and Ling had been messaging each other that very morning. Her smile hitched for a fraction of a second, a micro-expression of sheer exhaustion flickering across her features before she expertly masked it